ladies. We've all gathered here together to celebrate women in horror, which was typically celebrated in the month of February. For one reason or another, they decided to no longer celebrate or dedicate the month of February for women in horror. So they encouraged us to go on and do our own thing and celebrate all year long. So that's what we're doing here today. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining me.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome to have you all on. I'm so excited to get into this. So let's get into it. Let's just go around and take turns and introduce yourself and what exactly do you do?
I'll start. I'm an author. I've got some horror books and some poetry books of horror as well. And I also do dark fantasy. I sort of fell into the horror writing by accident, but I enjoy it. And I'm very good at killing off characters. So people seem to like it. So yeah. And my tagline is all things dark and stabby. So. Yeah.
Okay, Anita, you said you fell into it. How did you fall into horror?
I had to write this nice, sweet story for a writer group that I was doing a contest. It wasn't anything for prize money or anything like that, but apparently my muse is allergic to nice. So I got into serious writer block after that story, and so I decided to write the exact opposite of it, which was a Jack the Ripper story, because I have an interest in true crime and especially historic true crime. Anyway, so I wrote that story and I'm going, oh, I like this. So I just kept writing horror and I always pull in the mythology and the history to it as well, which is something I do in my fantasy writing as well. So it fits.
Awesome. Very cool. Cindy, would you like to go next?
Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy Williams. I'm co-founder and case manager for Appalachian Paranormal Investigative Research Society of West Virginia. I've been doing it, over 30 years, started in California, and I thought I was out of it when we moved to West Virginia. I had a bunch of people say, no, you've got the history, you got the experience. So you need to get back into it, and mostly now it's training people to know what to look for. And I'll tell you right now, West Virginia is loaded. I mean, you can't walk down the street without something historical haunting or something from somewhere. We're constantly getting people contacting us about, sending us pictures of this, that, or whatever, or they've gone to a location and something's happened. We went to one of Tammy's book signing things, and somebody brought in cursed objects. It affected everybody in the building. So what ended up with what was supposed to be a book signing ended up with us having to cleanse the building and the articles during the book signing. So it was really interesting, to say the least, but that's about it for me. So whoever's next, go ahead.
Yeah, that actually was a very interesting event, because we had not just authors, but we had Kelly Farrer, the Hollywood prop master from The Walking Dead, Pirates of the Caribbean. He was there. The man that always assists Tim, he was there. We had different psychics doing tarot readings and things. So when an antique dealer, and when the antique dealer brought this wooden head in, it made everybody in the place started getting headaches and sick to their stomach. I mean, it was bad. It was really creepy. I'm so glad, so thankful we had Cindy there with us to take care of the situation. Awesome. Brooklyn, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, I am Brooklynn Dean. I write currently a horror series called The Anti-Gospels. It starts with a book called Deification. I also have, 5 or 6 standalone novels that are not a part of the series, but Deification and its sequels are really the only ones I really write that are horror. Mostly I got the idea because I read A Clockwork Orange at least 4 times a year. It's one of my favorites. And I always think, why are there not female characters like Alex who are just bad for the sake of it? Like, no tragic backstory, no men have done something in their past to upset them. They're just violent and power hungry because they like to be. So that's kind of how Torrance was created. And she's just never left once I started writing her. So
that's actually an amazing twist, because you're right. Usually when we do have a female prime character that's a murderer or out for vengeance or violent, it usually has a traumatic background story. So that's a cool twist. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
So how many books have you written altogether? You also write non-horror. So how many do you do? How many have you had published altogether?
9 total.
Awesome. That's great.
I literally just had to count. I'm so keep track of like books and tattoos. I have no idea how many. They just go.
That's great. Christina, would you?
Well, my name is Christena Meredith. I am part of PIT, Paranormal Investigation Team. I do the research and base camp operations when we're out on home investigations. And I also help out with Haunted Majestic, making little strange things to put out and around on the trail and the boat. And we make scenes. Just get creative with it.
That's very cool. And if y'all haven't been to the Haunted Majestic, it's definitely worth the trip there and worth the trip through. And these people put their heart and soul into this, and they work on it year round. And in addition to the cool special effects, props, and sceneries that they build, it is an actual haunted barge. It is actual active barge. It is an active location. So they also do paranormal investigations as well. So very cool. Christina, what is there one particular prop or scene that you created that you just loved?
The slaughterhouse. I did that one pretty much all by myself. And other than the character that they had in it last year, everybody that went through it talked how much they loved that trailer. So that one so far is my favorite one.
Nice.
If
you can find any pictures of it, please send them to me, and when we share the
yes. I got some somewhere. I just have to look them up. So, but yeah.
Awesome. Amber, would you like to go next?
My name is Amber. I work for Slasher 15 Productions. I'm a producer, assistant director, special effects artist. I do acting, and I'm also a photographer. Get a little bit involved in a lot of things. So.
Yes, I saw the what was it, Bloody Summer Camp?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched that one. That was, you got some really cool stuff in there. You did all the effects for that one?
Yes.
That was really cool. I gotta say, my favorite was the head.
Okay. Yeah, my favorite in that one was the burn victim in the very beginning.
Oh yeah.
Because it was actually done on my daughter. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah. You guys haven't had a chance to watch it, check it out. And again, we can share the link when we post the video. Cher, would you like to go next?
Hey, yes, I'm Cheralyn Lambeth. I go by Cher, yes, like the singer. And like Cindy and Christina, I'm a paranormal investigator. I work with the Charlotte Area Paranormal Society here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm their cryptozoologist. I help investigate the weird creatures out and about, and I kind of approach it from a different angle. In my working life, I'm a costume prop and puppet builder for film and TV. I used to work for the Muppets. I worked on dinosaurs and Muppet Christmas Carol, and I work on several professional sports mascots. And so, as I always say, I'm not a professional creature scientist, but I am a professional creature builder. And so I kind of know how the evidence can be faked and can often point out things of like, yeah, that is not a real picture of Bigfoot. I've written a book called Haunted Theaters of the Carolinas. I also still do ghost hunting. And my first fiction book was Halloween Evening, A Tale of the Zombie Apocalypse, with apologies to Clement Moore for spoofing A Night Before Christmas. And I had a very, very tiny speaking part in Legacies, a spinoff of the Vampire Diaries. So I guess that kind of counts as horror. But I could totally vouch for Haunted Majestic. I visited for the first time this past October and had a blast and met some great people. So I can highly recommend it.
Yes, they are. They're all the whole crew, the owner and everybody that puts it together are great. But so yeah, the whole, you have so many different cool things going on between a cryptozoologist. That's freaking cool. I mean, seriously, that's really cool. And the fact that you use your skills for building puppets and creatures to be able to debunk these images and videos and things, that is amazing. That is like really, really cool.
Yeah, I have, I don't want to say I made enemies, I haven't made enemies, but I've kind of disappointed a lot of people by pointing out everything in the Patterson Bigfoot film, the famous Bigfoot film. I'm like, yeah, this is a guy in a suit, and here's why I think so. So yeah, I used to really believe in the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and all of that, and I still want to. I still think they're out there, but I just haven't seen any convincing evidence yet.
Yeah, well, and in the Appalachian Mountains, there's a lot of hidden, unearthed woods that there very well could be some strange stuff living out there we've not seen yet. But okay, a question for you: what is your favorite puppet that you have built?
Man, that's a tough one. For Muppet Christmas Carol, I worked on the Ghost of Christmas Present, and I think that was one of my favorite because it was such a great character and such a fun project to be part of. And so, yeah, I think I would have to say that was my favorite puppet that I've worked on. My favorite puppet overall is Cookie Monster because there's a guy who knows what he wants out of life and isn't afraid to go after it.
Right. Right. Renee, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, I am Renee DeCamillis. I am a horror author and editor, and I am also the lead singer, songwriter, and rhythm guitarist for the hard rock band Scars Aligned.
That's awesome. I have been so looking for a band or musician or singer who kind of dabbles in a little bit of a horror genre, and I've actually, year before last, I tagged along to horror country rock band, them Rockabilly, and they allowed me to tag along to one of their gigs and do a book signing, and they kind of promoted me during the concert. So that was really cool. That was really fun. And if you haven't heard of them, be sure and check them out. They're a pretty badass little group.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like Rockabilly. I mean, I don't listen to a lot, but I really dig it. You know. So
you do know them.
I don't know the band. I don't know the band. I'm just saying I like Rockabilly, you know,
gotcha.
So it'd be cool.
Yeah. But so what type of music did you guys play?
We play it's hard rock, metal, punk rock. Kind of hard to classify, but yeah, like a rockish, metalish, punkish. It's a very ish band.
That's cool because it makes it even more unique.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sure. Kind of like my writing. Just cross all the genres. Just throw them all in there.
Right. Another one, I'm wearing multiple hats. That's what I love about this group of ladies, is that all of you do so many different things, and it's still dabbling in the horror genre or the dark fiction. And I love how we have such a diversity here. And I think this is really cool. Okay, so you're also an editor. I think she's the only editor.
Yes, I am also an editor. I edit horror novels. I started out as an intern for Crystal Lake Publishing, And now I'm a freelance editor, as well as I'm doing some editing for the new horror press, Wicked House Publishing.
Awesome. Okay, do you hear that, writers? Here's your girl.
Wicked House, they're still open for submissions.
Now, we're definitely going to chat later.
And for any independently published authors, I'm a freelance editor, so hit me up.
Great. Kristen, would you like to go next?
Sure, yeah. So I am Kristen Vincent. I am a student, a mom. I have married, and I now have 6 animals. I just published my first book, a collection of poems that I've been writing since I was about 12 or 13. And it's just really to kind of get over life, things that we go through that we don't know how to cope with. And, my 7th grade teacher was doing creative writing, and I really got into it. So that just really hit me, and I continue to do it. It has helped me to steer away from self-harm. So I still do that. I'm working on book 2 for my first one. It's called Within Her Thoughts. And I actually took the photo myself of my daughter for this cover. And I also did a photo of my daughter for the book 2. I'm currently working on a children's book that is also in poetic form. Because I feel that, at least I know for me, growing up, it was easier to grasp something that rhymes, something that's not long. So I'm working on that. It's poetic form. And my goal for that is just really like a self-help book for children who are going through things that they don't know how to communicate with, such as certain disabilities that they have, like Tourette's, or being of a mixed race, or getting bullied for, just all kinds of stuff. And then I was also just accepted into an anthology. So it's going to be my first short story. And he did say that if I wanted to do a poem, I could, or I could try to do a short story. So currently working on a domestic horror.
Nice. And girl, the work that you're doing is amazing. Anytime you can take things that's happened to you and find a way to turn it into something creative, a creative outlet, and have a positive impression or a positive result, not just for everybody else that reads it, but for yourself. And that's kind of how I've been writing since I was in 5th grade. I started writing poetry, and me personally, I prefer rhyming poetry. I took some poetry classes over at West Virginia State. I graduated in 2018, so it's been fairly recent. And it seems like all of the poems that not one person in the classroom wrote anything that rhymed, except me. And of course, when I was writing it, I was getting criticized for it. Like, don't rhyme anymore. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. That's my voice. That's the way I feel. That's the way I express myself. But yes, I found it very cathartic, even as a young child in 5th, 6th grade. Being able to write poetry helped get that off my chest, because I didn't feel like I could talk to somebody about certain issues. So, yes, very admirable work, girl.
Thank you.
Mary, would you like to go?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Mary McFarland, and I just launched my thriller called Van Gogh Syndrome. And Renee, for you, I know you had an iguana, and one of the things in my book that sets my protagonist on the rampage is someone does harm her iguana. So I am a thriller writer. Yes, Renee. I had him as a child, and I loved him so much. His name was Osley, and I didn't realize that he was a warm-blooded creature. So when he went out in the cold in November, I tried to save his life by bringing him inside and putting him in the oven. I know, it's dark. It's dark. It's dark. Anyway, I do also, I'm releasing a dark fantasy in October, and Tammy, it actually, my protagonist is a gothabilly. Her boyfriend is a gothabilly. He's in a gothabilly band. So I'm not a, I don't know a whole lot about paranormal, but I am deep into, I like to investigate cemeteries. I would love to have book signings and book launches and writer conferences in cemeteries. They're the best places to get ideas. And so I'm just kind of like exploring my inner dark side as I work through my writing. And of course, I do spend a lot of time in cemeteries. So I'm really excited about the book that's coming out in October. And it's the first book that I've written that feels like, yes, I have really connected with my inner self, my deep, dark inner self, but in a very good way, in a positive way. And so I'm very excited to be here with you guys, and I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking my brain is going 100 miles an hour. And so I'm just a person who really, I love to channel whatever darkness is there, whether it's inside of me or it's coming from some other place, and then figure out a way to put it in words.
That's very, very cool. I have seen you posting a lot about your new book. Could you tell us a little bit more about the new book?
Yes. Van Gogh syndrome. I'm an eco-justice warrior. I am very connected to what is going on in our environment. And I live near a uranium processing facility. And I am, I've spent the last 10 years researching the damage that it's doing, to the community, to the residents around here. And so I decided, people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear about, how to split an atom. They want a way. It's the technology that I'm looking at it's just the window into the book. So the book is about, a terrorist attack on a nuclear facility. And I have a protagonist. She's very hell-bent on stopping this. And so that's her challenge. But I will say, Kristen, I know you love sunflowers, but what happens in Van Gogh syndrome is that the sunflowers absorb the radiation and they die. They die too. So I'm gonna ask you to. I'm gonna pay for you to get a rose tattoo or a tulip tattoo, but please, God, no sunflowers. Just kidding. Seriously, the book. It's so close to my heart as an eco-justice warrior.
That's actually very, very interesting, and I definitely want to have to get a copy. And I had talked about co-writing a book, and we kind of dabbled with the idea of using a nuclear plant. And I don't know if you guys heard, but I kind of got a little information. I don't know if it was public or not, but I heard that recently Manchin brought Bill Gates to West Virginia to check out a area in, I believe, anywho, to start a nuclear plant. I don't know about you guys, but that's
Wow.
I think we got enough plants around here.
It's so
the
difficult to understand because of the obvious fact that we cannot see the harm. We cannot see what it's doing to our children. And,
right.
It was a challenge for me because, I really knew.
Oh, we lost you, Mary.
Readers would never read a book about a nuclear. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm back. My challenge was to find a way. Yeah. Okay. my challenge was to find a way to make it entertaining. I had to find a way to make this book entertaining, because it's my sneaky way in. It's my way of getting my audience, into the terrible subject matter. And it is a thriller. So it's working. I'm getting a great response.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely anxious to get my hands on a copy. Well, my name's Tammy. I write under the pen name Wyndham Blue. Primarily a horror author. Haven't been quite as successful as you ladies have yet. I say yet. I still have ambition and dream and desire. I may get there someday. My first book I wrote, Mass Mayhem Malady, and Mary, again, kind of tying back to your book about things that could possibly happen in real life. To me, that's what real horror is. That scares me more than a severed head rolling down the hallway. Things that could really happen. And Mass Mayhem Maladies is basically that for the most part. There's one story in there that's probably a little more far-fetched than reality, but it's 7 creepy poems that open 7 chilling tales that take place during a pandemic. There's a little bit of cannibalism. There's there's a little bit of everything in it. But and then I co-wrote The Last Call with David Musser, and that one is about 7 strangers mysteriously wind up in a bar having to answer for their sins. And one of my characters is actually a preacher's wife, so she really freaked out when she ended up in a bar. Just to go to prove that sin is sin, and we all do it. Nobody is above it. And then grandbaby came along, and I wrote Baby Jen, and it's a book dedicated to our 5 living generations. I feel blessed to have my grandmother, my mom, then there's me, my daughter, and my grandbaby. We have 5 living generations, and felt like that was something I was blessed and proud, and so I wanted to write about it. So I wrote Baby Jen. There's a little poem for each female in the family, but it's all centered around our baby Jen. And then I did an Appalachian Cryptid Tales booklet for the Paranormal Tourism Convention last year, and I'm actually working on that to expand it into a book. Sharon and I had talked about that while we were at the Haunted Majestic together last year. And yeah, by the way, she has these cool cryptid maps of the Carolinas that show you that it's really cool maps that pinpoint where different cryptids have been sighted. So that it's really neat.
And if anybody has cryptids from your own home area, please let me know. I'm constantly doing research.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, well, I started back in 2016 with a poetry book. And yes, almost every poem in it rhymes. Not all, but almost all of them do. That was called Lemon Blue Presents This One for You. And I actually challenged my Facebook friends because I wanted to write a book of poetry, but I couldn't pinpoint what subject matter. So I put a message out on Facebook and said, hey guys, I want to write a book. I'm going to have challenge me. So give me either a title or a subject matter, and I will write a poem for you. And if I nail it, based on what's just your title and topic and how well I know you, if I nail it and you love it, then I'll put it in the book. It actually turned out pretty cool. And then there's a lot of other personal poems in there about being a single mom and how the Jeep broke down on the railroad tracks. And it's a little bit of that, and there's a little bit of comedy in it. But I actually yanked it off after I wrote Mass Mayhem and The Last Call because I realized I could have done so much better with that. So I pulled it off, and eventually it's going to get a reface and go back up. And then my last book that I just did is probably what I'm most proud of. It's called The Tabar, and it takes place here in St. Albans, Coldmouth. And it starts out with a fictional version of Chief Cornstalk. And it is appropriate for middle grade and up. It has video game play. It has a creature that was conjured out of a woman's broken heart, and he goes around and absorbs the town bullies during Easter. Working on, let's see, another middle grade book. I'm working on expanding the cryptid tales. I'm working on, oh my gosh, I've got like 2 or 3 others in addition. So I've got like 5 or 6 projects going all at once. Okay, so moving on. We kind of actually answered some of these already. How did you get into what you do? Does anyone want to elaborate on how you started? I know Anita kind of told us how she fell into horror. That was kind of cool. And some of us have talked about how writing has become something that's cathartic. Is there anything like Cindy? How did you get into paranormal investigating? And I've noticed about you as long as I've known you. I did not know this about you, that you actually took college courses in California for parapsychology and what all. You want to tell us about that?
Okay, well, first of all, I got involved in it because I grew up in a haunted house. And yeah, when I was in California, I took classes. I have a degree in anthropology with a minor in archaeology. And my subspecialty is Egyptology. For that, those are parallel studies. And then a friend of ours who owned a gun shop. Well, it's called Gun Runners. It's a gun shop in California. My deceased husband was partners in it, and him and the wife taught at Merced College. She taught parapsychology, so I went in and took the classes with her and did studies with her. And yeah, it answered a lot of questions I had. And a lot of people are mistaken. Parapsychology is not just dealing with like UFOs and stuff. It's also dealing with death and dying. See, a lot of people don't realize that, but that's a big section of your parapsychology, because a lot of people's beliefs as they're dying, when they're going through when they're going through hospice care and stuff like that, a lot of people believe that may have a big in-play on whether they go on to where they're supposed to be or whether they hang around unfinished business, or they're just so miserable, they figure they don't want to go what's after because they're not going to like where they're going. So they don't go. And a ghost is the same dead that they were alive. So if they were a mean SOB when they were alive, guess what? You got a mean SOB as a ghost. And you don't have the physical limitations. So it was just, it just gave me different things. The house that I lived in when I was a kid growing up, it was 150 years old when we got into it. And the first sighting we had was one of my brothers. When I got up in the morning, he goes, "Why didn't you answer me when I called you?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Because I had to come down through his bedroom to go to the bathroom. I didn't come down in the middle of the night. I was asleep, and he's like, "No," he said, "We saw you. You came down the stairs and walked right through." It's like, "No, it wasn't me. Everybody in my house saw it except for me." But they swear that it was a girl about my age at the time, my build and my hair color, but it would just walk past, never acknowledged anybody. And then when I got older and I had my children, I moved back to Niagara Falls, New York, which is where I was raised, to take care of my mother. My son, well, Phil, he was about 2 years old at the time. He was sitting in the kitchen. We were sitting in the living room, and he's just busting up laughing, playing cars. And we're watching the cars come back to him. I'm like, who is he playing with? There was nobody in the kitchen with him. No, I didn't know. So I was like, okay, so yeah. So that just continued. It's like, okay, well, maybe what I thought I saw when I was a kid, there was really some truth to it. And so it just got me more and more interested in it. And so then when I was in California with Sandy and everything, we went and investigated a lot of stuff, and she's the one that got me into it. And then as the kids got older, they got interested in it, and it just continued. When I came here, I figured, oh, okay, well, I'll give it up. That's back in, because I spent 15 years doing it in California, including, we were invited, the whole team, our research team was invited to the Conjuring 2 for the screenplay and stuff, and they wanted us as extras on the thing, but they were all working and couldn't get a week off to go. So we ended up having to pass on that. But yeah, it's really interesting. So I just stay into it. I just can't do as much as I used to because I'm getting up there now. So, but I still know I mainly train, I supervise, and I take care of all the materials except for the techs, the technical stuff. Different members of the team do it, but that's about it.
And you mentioned your kids were into it. Are they a part of your team?
Yeah, they're part of the team. My youngest son is the equipment manager. My oldest son, he's the tech analyst. And then my fiance, I just got engaged. My fiance, he's the technical advisor. And then we've got 2 trainees. We did have 4, but we're down to 2 trainees now because we lost 2 for personal reasons. That's okay, Tim.
It was not my choice. What she's talking about is my husband and I had joined the team, and my oldest daughter was a little leery about having a grandbaby around me, afraid that something bad may get attached to us while we're out on location and bring it back. So yeah, I wasn't getting to see my grandbaby. So you can imagine who won. Goes to the grandbaby wins. But yeah, very, very cool. So shared, going on back staying into the paranormal stuff, what do you find? Are you hunting for ghosts as well, or are you focused more on cryptids? And have you found anything to prove that a cryptid exists?
Well, my team, we definitely go ghost hunting, and I do that as well. I started out as a ghost investigator with them, and we do a lot of, we actually partner with a lot of historic sites here in North Carolina to do public investigations for them as fundraisers. That's one of the big things that we do. And but then of course we do private investigations, and we've been to a lot of different sites. But I've slowly been getting more into the cryptids because as I've gotten further and further into my career, my work, I'll look at a lot of these films, a lot of these pictures. I'm like, no, that's a guy in a suit. And it kind of inspired me to continue my research on that. So I have not yet seen a piece of evidence that I or another colleague in the film industry could not have made as well or better. I will say I've been surprised in all the research I've done that there are so many different cryptids in every state. Of course, when I saw you at Haunted Majestic in October, I made a point to get to Point Pleasant afterwards because I'd never been to the Mothman Museum. I wanted to see the Mothman. But I will say I was really surprised to recently discover after that we all know about Chernobyl, what happened with Chernobyl and the meltdown. Well, apparently a few days before the reactor melted down, there was a strange Mothman-like creature seen flying above the nuclear plant for a few days. Very similar to the Mothman predicting a disaster. I'm like, that's kind of an interesting coincidence.
Really? I've never heard that.
Yeah, I just recently learned that. So, it was kind of interesting that it was a similar creature and it also predicted a huge disaster. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I'm really fascinated by all the cryptids I've discovered, and also the fact that every single continent on the planet, except maybe Antarctica, but they probably have one too, has a Bigfoot type creature. That's kind of an interesting legend that seems to be in the common collective. So that's all made for some great research.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, Mary, that brings us back to the nuclear plants and stuff. That brings us back to you and your book. So, do you have any creepy cryptids or ghosts creeping around your nuclear plant? Okay. Looks like Mary may have stepped away. Okay. Back to it's building creatures and so forth. Let's get into our special effects artists. Those ladies who've actually created the creatures and the creepy scenes. And have any of you created any cryptids, or have you tried to create a ghost for film or for theater or something along those lines? And if so, what type of medium did you use?
Well, and I can say I work for a haunt here in Charlotte. We have a big theme park called Carowinds, and every October they do Scarowinds, which is their haunt. And we have made some, excuse me, creatures for that, usually using like ghillie suits, basically, you know, the suits that hunters use when they go out to try to camouflage themselves. And we'll add things to that. But I have to say, one of my favorite creature, I guess you kind of call it a creature, that we made, and it's certainly a very effective haunt, is a guy dressed as a potted plant. There's a performer in a black suit with ivy leaves sewn all over it and vines and everything, and he's just basically squatting in a big flower pot. And the minute a patron walks by, all he has to do is stand up, and they are out of there. That's a great, you know, scare, a jump scare, and one of my favorite things that I've made, because it's very simple but very effective.
Cool. That's cool. Amber, have you made any creatures or cryptids, or ghost-like figures for films, or?
Haven't made any creatures. I do have a film coming up with a little bit more of that involved in it, called An Awfully Strange Night. But I did make a ghost, but that was mostly beauty makeup and a lot of visual effects that went into making the ghost see through and whatnot. But I haven't made any creatures necessarily. I've made one monster, and then, like I said, I have a film coming up with a bunch of creatures in it that I'll be doing later on.
So the ghost that you made, was it an actual person that you used with makeup?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. And you said you created a monster. What monster did you create?
I have a movie that is called Ajar. And it's based off a slaw demon. So, you know, it's got claws and teeth, and I don't want to get too much into it because I haven't released that film yet.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we don't want to give any spoilers.
But
what is your favorite, your go-to medium that you like to use? I mean, do you prefer makeup on people? Do you prefer modeling clay? Do you prefer plaster of Paris? What's your favorite?
I prefer doing things on people.
Okay.
Depending on what it is. I mean, sometimes it's fun to use, you know, props and things too, but I like to put effects on people a lot more than anything else.
Okay. Christina, what about you?
Well, I made a drunken skeleton and a whiskey barrel last year. And I was going to put a fountain effect to it, to where as he is holding the bottle up and the whiskey was pouring out. I had it all set up, just never got to the fountain part. And I'm hoping this year I actually get the fountain working on it. But that one's been my favorite one that I've worked on.
What is your favorite medium to use if you're building creatures or props, or do you prefer working with makeup on people, or do you prefer creating actual mannequins or props?
I would say probably.
What's your favorite medium? Do you like to use latex? Do you like to use plaster? Do you like to use clay? What do you use?
Saran wrap, heat gun. Anyway, it's duct tape, heat gun, and saran wrap I like using the most. You can create so much stuff like that.
Cool. Maybe we can do something like this again and have you give us a demonstration.
Oh yeah.
Let's do that, guys. For those of you all that do special effects, why don't you, if you're willing, create a little something special for us to do another little video like this, and you do an actual presentation of how you build something. Anyway, just a thought. Okay, so we're talking about props and creatures, and from real ghost hunting to creating them to okay, well, what's next? Well, if you've got real stories to tell, that's obvious. That's easy to do. Well, kind of, sort of. It still takes a talented person to write those stories out. But anywho, but yeah. we've got the movie makers, the prop designers and all that. But who does it? I mean, who writes it? Where do the original ideas come from? Where does it start? That starts with our writers, right? And Mary, are you back with us yet, Mary?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So yeah, so that kind of takes us back to the writers, and we tried to mention again earlier about the nuclear plant and stuff, but you mentioned that you like to hang out in cemeteries and that you'd like to do a book signing in a cemetery. That would be so cool. I would be so down with that. We should all do that. All the writers in here, we should all get together and have a female book signing in a cemetery. But anywho, but so Mary, where do you come up with your ideas? And for the other writers in the group, I would like to hear your take on this too. For your horror stories, where do you come up with your ideas? Your creepiest creatures, your most menacing nemesis? Where do you come up with your characters and your storyline?
Mine come from somewhere deep inside me. As a little girl, I had nightmares, and I used to believe that I could see into the future. For example, one night I had this dream that we got this telegram, and the next day we got this telegram. And so I felt like I was a very dark little child, you know, and when I grew up, of course, I cultivated that into stories, the things that I had nightmares about, the things that troubled me, especially as a kid, you know, you want to work through it. So, you know, all these years later, they're just coming out. My nightmares, things that happened, you know, to me as a kid. And they weren't always happy things. And they were sometimes what I consider very, I guess, I don't know if the word's paranormal, but they were just beyond what, you know, you should feel as a little kid, you know, seeing into the future or seeing shadowy things. I'm not sure if that's making sense, but I just had this deep inner place that kept coming out in my dreams. And so I kept track of it. I wrote about it. And now I'm taking those stories and just twisting the hell right out of them.
I think a lot of us would agree with that a lot of us kind of have that dark side. And Kristen's touched on it with her poetry on things, especially dealing with it as a child and trying to cope and use her writing as a means of dealing and coping. And so I think that's true for a lot of us. But on the same point, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but as a child and even as an adult today, some of the wicked thoughts that run through my head, I'm almost ashamed to write about them because I'm thinking these people, they might think I really am twisted, that I'm really this twisted. So Brooklyn, Anita, what's your all's take on that? How do you come up with your stories? Do you have the same feelings or same thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, I lean into the twisted. I actually have a little quote on my website that says, I am not a serial killer, because I've actually had people ask me that in interviews. So I've got that disclaimer on my website now. But no, I've had
there was a true story about a woman who was a horror writer who was literally writing about murdering her husband, and she went to trial for it, everything. Do y'all know who I'm talking about? She wrote a book about killing her husband, and then she really killed her husband and published the book.
Well, that kind of ties into how I get my horror inspirations, because I have a fascination with true crime. And honestly, that stuff is weirder than anything I can write. Some of the things, especially if you go back in history and read some of the true crime stuff from the historic records. I mean, that's just like so bizarre. And I mix it in with my interest in mythology. So you've got like true crime and vampires, or true crime and ghost stories, and so it sort of melds into a dark fantasy, like horror. I call it horror fantasy, is what I like to write. Anyway, because I mean, I grew up in Nova Scotia, and basically you can't go anywhere in this province without hitting a ghost story. So yeah, there's haunted ghost ships, haunted restaurants, haunted houses everywhere in this place. So it's sort of what I grew up with, the ghost stories. So I developed a fascination for mythology and legends and paranormal stories.
Very cool. Yeah, when you're surrounded by it, obviously it's going to affect you. You're going to be impressed by it one way or another. Brooklyn, what about you?
I write more character-driven stories than plot-driven ones. So I always like to attach a concept to each novel that I write. So that's my way of kind of exploring those topics. I have like Fiberglass Galaxy is a standalone novel that I have. It's not exactly horror, but it is a little creepy. Its overarching theme is death and dying. So I like to incorporate those different themes and kind of explore them through the characters. So I don't necessarily offer any answers anywhere throughout them, just a lot of contemplations.
Kristen, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. So I mean, for my stuff, it's just really like I have stuff that's based off of things I have gone through. But a lot of times, again, like everybody else, we're very fascinated with true crime, and pretty sure my husband sleeps with one eye open. So, you know, ever since I was little, I've been intrigued with it because my mother was also very intrigued with it. And so it just kind of kept going. For me, I think with just getting into, you know, writing and everything, especially with my first short story right now, it's more based off of what women or men don't want to talk about, what they're going through in relationships, and possibly thoughts that we have, but we can't do without going to jail. So yeah, I kind of like to try to right now keep it realistic, but also like, holy crap, you know?
Yeah, agreed. And again, Cher also has written on non-fiction ghost stories, and that's pretty cool. And we can touch back on that if you like. But I'd like to pinpoint Renee next, because one reason I've kind of held you last on this subject matter is because I want to know the same question. Where do you get your thoughts and for your horror genre or writing? But also, does your music, does it come from a different pool, or are you pulling from the same pool? When in putting them in two different outlets?
It all comes from the same place. I mean, I with my music, it's, you know, hard rock and metal and punk, and it's angry and aggressive and angsty, and you know, that's horror, kind of goes hand in hand. And my inspiration really just comes from life. You know, life with its ups and downs and its crazy characters, and whether you've lived it or observed it or know someone who's gone through it, you know, I just take it all in, and you know, it fuels everything. It fuels my fiction writing, it fuels my music. You know, it's kind of a type of therapy too, in a way. It's a way for me to, I say you, but you know, I mean me and maybe everybody, you know, it's a way for you to work through, you know, everything you witness, everything you go through, everything you see your friends go through, or everything you see going on in the world. You know, I pull from all of it, you know, but really life is horror. And, you know, all I can do is laugh and get inspiration from it and put it into my writing and my music. And yeah, I don't know where do the ideas come? They come from everywhere, but life in general.
Yeah, I can see that, and I guess I really hadn't analyzed it in that much detail myself. But you're right. Like, I was working on a short story, and the train derailment with the chemical spill creeped into the story, and I'm thinking, wait, that's like really raw new news. I don't know if I should put that in a story just yet. It slipped in there on me, and I didn't even consciously realize I was doing it. But Amber, as far as like the special effects work, I know that most of the time you're going by a script where they tell you, okay, well, this is what's happening, and but you still have to vision it,
Yes.
in order to build it.
Yes.
So how do you come up with the actual vision of what you're going to create?
So once I get direction on as to what I'm doing as far as what's happening in a scene or what kind of death it is, I research it, and I'm one of the weirdos who goes on the dark web and I watch, real-time death of people getting murdered or, things happening. I'm probably on an FBI most watch list. I don't know, but and then I take that and I kind of go through the mechanics of what it actually looks like in real time, and then I try to incorporate that in what we're doing in film. Add it on, I embellish a little bit just because that's what people want to see.
Yeah. The other night I was fixing baked potatoes, and you know how you stab them with a fork. I was literally in there stabbing the potatoes with a fork before I was cooking them, and I was literally, again, I think to myself, what is wrong with me? But I'm literally stabbing this potato with a fork, and I'm thinking, wonder if that's how hard it is to like stab somebody in the leg. Just for, not because I want to do it, but seriously, just in reference for like writing a book, I wonder if I could describe it as that, because I've never done it.
Intrusive thoughts for the win.
So I'm going to ask one more question, and then we can take a quick break. And my question is this, with us all being females in the field of horror. We've all faced our own demons in real life and in our chosen fields. Let us explore what females, past or present, has inspired you, horror related or not. It doesn't have to be someone in the horror related field. And do you have any personal experience or story that this person may have been able to help you through or inspired you on a particular project? Mine is Mary Shelley. She was amazing. She created the all-time never dying classic of a dead man, and she did it at a time when women weren't even really supposed to read, much less write, and be so amazingly creative. In addition, some of the backstory that I've learned to know was that she was actually her husband's editor. He was helping him edit his work. And then she goes off and creates this cool creature story and outshines him completely. And I'm sorry, that's especially in that time period. So to me, she was like one of the first women ever to bust through the glass ceiling. She was doing it at a time when women weren't even supposed to read. So she's my hero.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
I will go next because my biggest idol in the entire universe is Anne Rice. I have loved her since I was a child. I always refer to her as my Lord and Savior. So her writing, the way she writes, it's so poetic and so beautiful. She can make the most horrific scene sound like pure poetry. And so I have always, since I was a child, wanted to be a writer like that and just make terrifying things sound beautiful and kind of blend those two different things together. So for sure, Anne Rice.
Yeah, my inspirations probably are more in the mystery field because I read a lot of murder mysteries growing up. So like Agatha Christie and Dorothy L. Sayers and Ruth Rendell, I mean, they really knew how to kill people off in their books really well. So that was inspired me quite a bit.
I'm gonna jump in because the Anne Rice reference and how she can make the horrific like poetic, like I envy that. I can't do that. But with mine, I would say again, Mary Shelley and Shirley Jackson. You know, I love how well Mary Shelley, come on. I enough said. But Shirley Jackson, how she can just take a dark, heavy moment that's very like abstract and personal and just it could seem like the most mundane thing going on and she just makes it heavy and dark with mood and shadows and to some people maybe not anything's going on, but it gets so internalized. And I don't even know how to describe, like, it's just the subtle darkness that just weighs on you. It's just, whew, it's heavy. Like, I want to be able to do that.
Well, I'll jump in, and certainly author-wise, I have to agree with all of those authors, Agatha Christie, Anne Rice, Dorothy Sayers. There's also an author I really like called named Lillian Jackson Brown, who wrote the Cat Who series. And if any of you have not read those, please do, because I know many of you have cats, but they are two cats who solve mysteries, and it's a great series. But certainly in the field of paranormal research, and it's quite a recent thing, it hasn't really been in the mainstream, excuse me, that long. And Lorraine Warren, who was part of the Conjuring group, she certainly helped build that up. Excuse me. And Yvette Fielding, who was Britain's Most Haunted, she and her husband helped build that. So they certainly helped build the field.
I'll jump in. So I also have to agree with the whole Anne Rice. She's just incredible. Love her. Another one would be V.C. Andrews. I grew up reading my mom's books that she had. And then, of course, the movies that went along with several of her books. You know, her writing just spoke to me growing up and, you know, being infatuated with mystery and suspense and horror and, I mean, the horror reality of the stuff that she did write that could honestly happen or is probably happening is just, yeah.
Amber, Christina, Mary, do any of you guys have a female that's inspired you? And it doesn't have to be a person. It could be a sister, a friend, a mom. Good.
Next.
Okay.
Go ahead, Amber.
Oh, okay. V. Neal was an inspiration. She worked on Ed Wood and Beetlejuice, and you know, she grew up around fairy princesses and she wanted to be different, and so she went out and did it. And I think that's amazing that, you know, she didn't care that it was different. She just wanted to get it done. So
Go ahead, Mary. I think Christina's waiting for you.
Okay. Can you hear me? I think for me it's Emily Dickinson, because of course she was able to take words, because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me, and just those are the most evocative words in the English language, I think, and they get us right into the dance with death. And so as a writer, for me, that's it. I don't want any barriers between me and my readers. I want them to feel it, what it's like to die. So I like how she lived too. I think she was just so iconic and reserved and reclusive.
Christina?
Everybody's named some awesome women. Honestly, I can't really say that there is a woman figure, but Edgar Allan Poe and Stephen King.
We lost you on the mic after Stephen King, but yes, I 100% agree with you. Edgar Allan Poe, definitely. Definitely. I remember reading him in 8th grade English class, and
Oh yeah.
fell in love with him very, very young.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, ladies. At this point, I'm going to say, oh, well, you know what? There was one more that I'd like to add to the list. Nellie Bly. Are you all familiar with her? Nellie Bly. She wrote 10 Days in a Madhouse. She actually went to a madhouse, to an insane asylum. Then went through all the torturous rituals and crap that they did to those poor women, and then wrote about it. And I've got the book. I've started reading it. I haven't gotten it finished yet, but I have seen the movie. And if the movie goes along with the book, she damn near didn't make it out.
What's her name? What's her name again?
Nellie Bly.
Nellie Block.
Bly. B-L-Y.
Yeah, I think her editor ended up having to get her out, if I recall.
Right. Yeah, she just about didn't get out of there.
And what did she write?
She was a journalist
Journal.
in the 19th century.
Yeah.
Yeah, she she's
did
most
eventually write the book.
yeah she was
Well,
most
sure.
famous for recreating the Around the World in 80 Days.
Right.
What's this
Yeah.
madhouse thing? I need to know that book. What is that?
Yeah.
10 days in a madhouse.
What is it? How many days?
10 days. 10 days in a madhouse.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Cindy, did you want
It's
to?
her Adventures of Bedlam.
Well, I worked in the psych field, and that really influences my fiction a lot. So I am interested in any twisted psychological, psychiatric hospital, dysfunctional psych hospitals, like all that stuff interests me. So I am definitely going to check this out.
You would love that story then.
Yeah.
She was an amazing woman to have been strong enough and brave enough to go into that with a risk of her maybe not getting back out. And the whole, everything around it, I'm not going to give any more spoilers, but yeah.
No spoilers.
She was definitely amazing. Definitely worth checking out. Cindy, did you want to add an additional female that influences or inspires you? Or, I mean, you kind of mentioned the lady that you ended up taking classes.
Yeah, her name was Sandy. But yeah, there's several women. I mean, there's authors all through history that I think have laid the path for women writers, and just women in the paranormal field and in fields that predominantly were male. If you weren't a male or it wasn't a male face, they didn't even want to look at you. You know, Leslie Ann Warren was typical. You know, she was the actual brains and the sensitivity behind it. Her husband was a demonologist. You know, I mean, she did all the stuff, and she was the expert on the cases. But you know, it's funny, somebody mentioned Stephen King. Stephen King did an interview years ago, and there was one thing that he said that I think kind of explains horror writers or just dark writers. Somebody asked him how he comes up with his ideas, and he said, I don't know. He said, you could have me, and he named it was some Western author, and I can't remember what his name is, but he said, we could be sitting on the porch looking out, he says, and he sees horses and green pastures, and I see a monster under the ground looking for its next victim.
Does anybody want to add anything else to this section of our chat?
I just want to comment on what Cindy just said about, the Stephen King thing. And that's true. Like it all depends on perspective. Like you can have different people looking at the same situation and you come out with completely different stories. I think it's a big thing to consider when thinking about, some people always ask like, why horror? Like, why paranormal investigation? Why do you focus on the dark? It's just ingrained in your brain. Like, I think that's a very important point to make, So thank you, Cindy.
Yeah. I was an English major in college, so a lot of our assignments would just be, okay, go read this chapter and we'll talk about what it means at the next class. And to have 5 or 6 people read the exact same words, you had 5 or 6 different interpretations of what those passages meant. So yeah, you definitely bring your perspective to anything that you do, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you're a horror writer when you're looking out the window at the guy picking up the recycling and you're wondering how many body parts you can fit in one of those bags. So
Yes. I know a lot of people will ask me like, why horror? Like why horror? You can write about so many different things, and there's so many beautiful things in the world. Like, why horror? It's like, but when you're the person like that sits and thinks about like the worst possible case scenario that could happen with anything that you do on any given day, it's like, that's horror, like you just can't get out of it. It's just like the way your brain works.
I think that's why horror is so popular or so it resonates with everyone, because everyone in the world, we're all afraid of something. And I think one of the reasons Stephen King is such an effective horror writer is he takes our comfort zone. He takes the normal and what we're used to and what we're comfortable with, and then he twists it. Yeah. In fact, one of my favorite stories of Stephen King is The Mangler, which was a short story. And it took place in a dry cleaner. It was about the dry cleaning, folding and pressing machine that suddenly developed a life of its own and started going after people. And, working with costumes, and I'm like, if my washer and dryer really came to life, I'd be terrified. So, yeah, I think that's why horror resonates with everybody, because we're all afraid of something. It may be something different, but there's something.
Right. And share, or worse yet, your sewing machine.
Yes. Yes.
Just to add to that, so I have the Pet Cemetery first edition. Love the movie, love the book, but I think honestly, I think that's probably why I cremate my animals now, because I'm scared to death that some wild demonic animal is just gonna come out, I don't know. I watched the movie when I was really young. I snuck behind my mom's back and watched it. Yeah, I probably should have waited.
I watched
Speaking of cemeteries, I just had to add that I used to be a grave digger. So cemeteries play into my fiction a lot.
Wait. Did you just say you used to be a grave digger?
Yes. When I was working my way through grad school, and I was digging graves while I was writing horror. But yeah, it's so funny because people think of cemeteries as this big scary place, and it's so dark and heavy, but really they're very peaceful places, and it's a great place to go and get away, and you just want to escape all the craziness of the world. Just go sit in a cemetery for a while, and it's so peaceful.
That's
true. That's very, very true. And actually, that's really a good point, and a question for a paranormal investigator. Do you really fun? Because it doesn't make sense that a spirit would haunt where their body is buried. It looks like if a spirit's going to linger, a spirit would linger where it either where the person either passed away or where their most loved ones are, or I mean, I would think that if I die, I'll become a ghost. I'm gonna haunt my kids. I'm sorry, kids, but I will, because I love you and I won't want to leave you. So I'll be hanging around with kids, not the cemetery. Trust me, I'm not happy with this old body anymore, so I don't care what they do with it.
I've often talked about that with other paranormal investigators, and maybe Cindy and others can weigh in. But yeah, people don't normally die in cemeteries except in rare and unfortunate circumstances. So it wouldn't, while on the surface you would think, oh, it's a spooky, scary place, dead people, it would be haunted. It doesn't make sense for it to be haunted because it's where the body is and not the soul necessarily. Although one member on my team says, well, it's the last time your family is gathered together thinking of you. So maybe that would explain why. But yeah, there have been quite a few interesting investigations and photos and evidence taken in cemeteries.
And now I'm not completely dismissing it, because I've actually had a huge fight on an EMF reader, EMF detector in an old cemetery. And I felt something there. So I'm not saying no cemetery is haunted. I'm just saying it just doesn't make as much sense to me. If I pass away and get to become a ghost instead of moving right away, one way or the other, I'm going to linger around my babies.
Well,
Yeah,
there's actually a
I like
theory.
it. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
There's actually a theory about why there's more haunted cemeteries or hauntings in cemeteries. A lot of it are dealing with old cemeteries, and it's because what they knew when they were alive is gone. The house they lived in is probably gone. The family that they had is all gone. The last thing they remember is where their family was laid to rest, the family cemeteries, the plots where their families' human remains are. When we were in California, we were in an old cemetery. Another things, we got EVPs of children playing in the cemetery. They were children. Maybe they couldn't find their parents. Maybe they didn't know where they were going. There was a bunch of kids, they were playing. That's all they knew. Especially children and people that die sudden deaths. They don't know what happened, especially if their spirits are older. They may not remember. They may lose their memory of their human life as they get older. They don't even know why they're there. Some of them don't even know they're dead. So, it's different things that can cause different hauntings.
Very, very good
Why
point.
you bring that up, Cindy, because I was going to say, like, if you are a believer in the soul, like a lot of people believe, like, well, you're dead, it's just a body that's in the ground. Like your soul is not there. You're really not there. Like my mom always used to say, like, why do people visit cemeteries? Like their loved one is no longer there. But Cindy, you brought up another aspect of that, like, and that's great because like in the cemetery I worked in, where I felt like the most activity was in the older section. So I think that's a really good point to bring up. Like, a lot of people think that they're going to haunt, like they're going to stick around their family members. They're going to stick around the places they know. But if those things are no longer there, well, where do they stay? Where do they cling to? I think that's very important thing to think about when thinking about cemeteries and hauntings, and where would spirits haunt? Why would they haunt a cemetery? Well, where else is left for them to haunt?
That's very true. That's very true, especially if the ghost is still lingering around 200, 300, 500 years after they died and everybody they know is gone. So yeah, very good points, guys. Very good points. Thank you all for bringing that out. I would like to thank you all again for being here with me. This has been so exciting. We are going to take a little break, and hopefully the majority of us can come back. Some may not. Some's in different places, different states, different time zones, different countries. But that's actually a good point. And let's end this first half like that. Everybody go around, if you could, again, give us your name. Tell us where you're from. Tell us about yourself one more time. What products, services you offer. Tell us how we can get a hold of you, your social media, your website, and so forth. Again, thank you all so much for being here. This has been so much fun. Anita, would you like to start, please?
Okay, I'm Anita Stewart. I write under AF Stewart though. You can find all my books on Amazon's and Kobo and all the other retailers. And I have a website. It's afstewart.ca because I live in Canada. And I also host 2 podcasts, Between the Pages Book Chat, where I interview independent authors about their book. And I host in line with this video, I host another podcast called Words That Kill, where I interview authors about killing off characters. And those conversations can sometimes go nicely dark. So, and as well as I have a Redbubble store where I do designs. I do more than horror on that. I do have horror designs over there as well. And I just started author services too for book graphics and manuscript evaluation. So I'm a very busy person.
That's great. Cindy?
I'm Cindy Williams. I'm in Charleston, West Virginia. I'm a co-founder and investigator. I do a little bit of everything, actually. I kind of wear the main hat for Appalachian Paranormal Investigative Research Society, APISWV.com is our website, which is currently being revamped, so don't hold it against me. But yeah, we do anything with the paranormal. We go investigate. Mainly, we try to disprove or at least explain what's going on. 1% of the time, I'd say 1 to 3% of the time, it's an actual haunting, it's an actual something paranormal. Normally, it's something that you got to call a contractor in for, or some kind of physical issue, or just overactive imagination sometimes. I mean, hey, So, but anyway, it was great meeting all of you, and I hope to talk to you again soon, but I'll probably be back for second half. So thank you.
Awesome. And Cindy, one more question about your paranormal team and the services you provide to the community. I know you also educate people on techniques of investigating, how to use certain equipment and things of that nature. Do you charge to come out and investigate? Like if somebody's having a haunting in their home, do you charge them to come out and investigate, or do you charge to make appearances to do like an educational class on techniques?
No, we don't charge to come up for investigations. Now, like if we have to travel 5 hours, we might, ask you to kick in for gas, or something like that. But because in fact, when I was still in California, that happened. I was called out 4 hours away, and they paid for my train fare and then put me up for a weekend, because that's what it took to find out what nasty mess was in there and get rid of it. So in addition to investigating, we also do house cleansings, blessings, try to give you an idea of how to correct it. Yeah, mainly educating the public. So especially some people bring it in on themselves. They invite it in, they bring it in, like they go to antique stores and they buy stuff not knowing what's attached to it and bring it into their house, and it's got something attached to the item. So, I mean, there's all kinds of different ways, but yeah, we don't charge for it. Like I said, unless it's a far away thing and you're calling us in specifically, and then it's on a donation type thing. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Brooklyn?
Okay, yeah, I am Brooklyn Dean. Brooklyn is with 2 N's. I have mishaps all the time when people spell it with 1 N. Amazon will not suggest me at all if you put Brooklyn with 1 N. I have no idea why. And also brooklyndean.com with 1 N had a mishap at a convention. She is an Australian author apparently, and from the looks of her website, not horror at all. So brooklyndean.com with 2 N's. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Brooklyn with 2 N's. And I'm actually having a buy one, get one free sale on my website right now this weekend. It ends Sunday night. So all autograph books are included in that. And like I said, I have 9. So you can get a lot of books that way. Cindy also just scared me because I love antiques and I have like a million antique crucifixes from all over the place. And I'm just sitting here like, does that counteract anything that might be attached to it?
Yeah, and honestly, I'll post a picture of the or the item that she's talking about in our group chat, so you guys can see it. It's really cool because honestly, when it was first brought in, I'm like, oh, that's neat. I want that. And then all that happened. I'm like, no, I don't.
Never mind.
Amber, do you want to?
I'm Amber. I'm in Virginia area. Work with Slasher 15 Productions, special effects artist, assistant director, producer, actress, photographer. You can find all of our social on Slasher 15 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Some of our films are currently on Tubi, like Bloody Summer Camp. Yep.
And Amber, you also do photography. How can they reach you if they need to?
My Instagram handle is Prism Pearls Photography. You can reach me on that for those.
Okay. And do you have a specialty that you do with your photography?
So I do boudoir and I do specialty shoots. I do some horror photography. It kind of just depends on what you're looking for.
Okay. Share.
I'm Cheralyn Lambeth out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm a costume prop and puppet builder. My website is cheralynlambeth.com, and all my books are available on Amazon. I'm also a paranormal investigator with the Charlotte Area Paranormal Society here in Charlotte, and that website is capsnc.com. And I have an Etsy shop. I've been making finger puppets of some of the cryptids out there. My Etsy shop is Cheralyn Industries. My name, Cheralyn Industries. And you can get some puppets. Also, I'm starting to sell my cryptid maps there. And I do speaking on cryptids. So I enjoy talking about all the monsters out there.
If I'm not mistaken, Cher also has a Ghostbusters card.
I do. Yeah.
That she does make guest appearances. So if you have a cool event going on that you'd like for her to bring the Ghostbusters car and bring her books and do a signing, and yeah, she'll come to that too.
I do. Thank you. Yes.
Renee?
Hi, I'm Renee DeCamillis. I am a horror author and editor. I am from Southern Maine, just outside of Portland. I have a book out, The Bone Cutters. It's a psychological thriller, supernatural horror book, and I also have a number of short stories out there in numerous anthologies, as well as my poetry appears in the HWA Poetry Showcase Volume 4. And I also wrote a comic book that has a publication date to be determined. And I have another short horror story coming out in the near future in an anthology of Horrors of the Deep. The title is still in the works though. So, but yeah, that's me.
That's pretty cool. You hadn't mentioned the comic book. Did you do that?
And I'm available on all the social media sites, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm not very active on Twitter, but I'm on Goodreads and all that, under my name. Oh, my website is renees.decamillis.com.
Okay, cool. You mentioned the comic book. You hadn't mentioned the comic book earlier. I'm digging that. Did you do the images too? Did you do the graphic design?
Sorry, I didn't do the artwork. I wrote the story with it. I wrote it a few years ago in 2018, and it's still been on hold because so many other volumes of the comic book were set to come out. So I don't have a publication date yet. So, and actually doing this podcast, I'm like, I really got to check with that publisher and find out when the hell that's coming out so I can promote it.
That's really cool. And I can't wait to see a video clip of the band too.
Yeah, we're hoping to get some stuff recorded soon. What's that?
I said I'm anxious to hear you guys.
Yeah, I'm anxious to get some tunes out there. So as soon as we can get the recording squared away, we'll get some tunes out there for you guys.
Great. Okay, Christena.
My name is Christena Meredith. I am a paranormal investigator with Pitt. You can reach Pitt at www.facebook.com grave 7463. And also, I work for Haunted Majestic, and you can find all our public paranormal tours for the boat at www.hauntedmajestic.com.
Okay, great. And Kristen?
Hi, yeah. So my name is Kristen Vincent, and I am in Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. And I do poetry writing, very dark, very raw. I am on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on Twitter, but I'm not really active on Twitter. But I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram. For Facebook, it is Kristen Vincent-Author. And then for my Instagram, I believe it is author.k.vincent. Because whenever you look up my books on Amazon, it's actually K Vincent and not Kristen Vincent. So
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Have you mentioned, I know you mentioned that you're a mom and that you stay busy doing that. But did you tell everybody what else you're doing?
ma'am.
Did you tell everybody what else keeps you busy other than writing and being a mom?
I mean, I'm a student. I am currently working on a teaching degree for pre-K to third grade, and I have 7 classes left. I do a little bit of photography. It's just more like fun. I mean, I don't think I'm that great at it, so it's just more of a hobby, something to get me to see the world differently, you know. Other than that, I mean, I like working with my animals with obedience and training and hiking and being out in the outdoors and on the water.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, girl. I was just
Yeah.
pretty proud of you, all the stuff you've got going on, and you're going for a teaching degree, and you're wanting to write a self-help book for children, and it just seems like you're on the road of being such an influential person who can move people into a positive realm. And I think that that needs to be celebrated. And I think you need to keep on doing what you're doing, because I think it's pretty cool.
Thank you so much.
And out here, you got 2 new family members today.
Yes, we actually got 2 ferrets today. So, yep. So we now officially have 6 animals, and I have not had to dig my grave yet. Fingers crossed.
Okay, great. Well, maybe we can learn more about everybody's fur babies in the next round.
Yeah.
Meredith, would you tell us one more time who you are and where we can find you and your product?
Mary McFarland, and I live in the middle of basically kind of like a forest, Brush Creek State Forest, at my organic tree farm. It's called Mucky Manor in Southern Ohio. And my website is marymcfarlandbooks.com. You can find out pretty much anything you want to know about my social there. And I do have a blog post I'm very proud of that actually talks about Stephen King and fear. So that's my gig. I also have a tech startup. I heard Anita talk about author services, and I do have a tech startup. We are designing apps for authors, and it's actually, for example, if you need to find, let's say you need the top 10 blogs on horror, and instead of going out and looking that up and spending all the time doing that, my app will actually do that for you in about 5 seconds. And so that's what we're about. And we are also have a group for teenagers where we're bringing them out off the streets, so to speak, in a very good way, and teaching them how to design apps and also using their stories in their books.
That's amazing, Mary. That's awesome. Definitely like to hear more about that. And
It keeps me busy.
yeah, definitely like to hear more about that. And I hope you get back on with us for the second session, because I pulled up your website and I saw that you became a jailbird at a very young age. I'd like to hear about that, but we'll save that for the second session. Okay, guys. My name is London Blue. I primarily write horror.
Okay.
Have a little bit in dark fiction for middle grade and up. However, like the Tabar, focus more towards middle grade. However, it is still in there. There's still things in there for adults to enjoy, such as ties to that only adults are really going to understand or pick up on, such as Betty Davis Eyes and Indiana Jones and little references like that in there that it's a little more enticing for the adults to try to find clues of what's going on. Anywho, you can find me WV London Blue basically on all social media. I'm a lot like you guys. Got Twitter and Instagram. I don't spend much time there. I usually stay on Facebook. It's just easier to use than most of my friends and acquaintances are on Facebook. It's just easier to talk to everybody at once. Website is wvlondonblue.com, and you can find my book on Amazon under WV London Blue author page. Yeah, or shoot me a DM, and I'll be happy to chat with you. I do want to say that I was building a supernatural tourism website, and I felt like we bit off a little more than we could chew, because supernatural is such a vast area containing so many different fields and so many different people. And so we're changing the supernatural tourism. We're not giving up on it. We're just refocusing and narrowing it down at this point until I get the website up and running smoothly and perfectly the way I want it to. Once I get it set up this way, then we'll expand back out into the supernatural tourism to where I can easily add the different fields. But right now we are focusing on artisans, and obviously supernatural artisans are absolutely welcome. Authors, artists, visual artists, performing artists, any type of artistic field that you can think of, we want to help promote. And again, I'm still building the website. Hopefully I will have it up and ready in the next week or two. But if it goes as planned, as an artisan, you can join, and you can basically set up your own little store on our website and sell your books or your services or what have you right there on your profile page from our website. And this is the kicker. You can put your PayPal or your pay links in there to where they can pay you. You can take payments from the site, and I won't touch a dime of it. There's no percentage to me. There's a one-time fee, a small one-time fee to set up, and that's for limited time. And while we're getting established, it's a small one-time fee is like $55, $50, something like that. One-time fee, and you're a member for life. And then all I ask is you occasionally give me something for the private page. No big deal. But one-time fee, you can go on there, set up, and sell your stuff online. So stay tuned on that. Website is artisticallyhuman.com. And like I said, it is in the building process. So you can go in there and sign up for free membership. That way you'll be informed as to when we make updates and when the full-blown site goes live. Brooklyn, I think you're a member. I think Christina's a member. I think a couple of you are already members there, and appreciate that. Hang in there. I am fixing the site. It is going under a transformation. I am working diligently on it, but just to let you know what was going on that. Okay, again, ladies, thank you so much for being here. I've had a great time, and I hope to see you back on the second session. If you can't get back in on the second half, then maybe we can schedule individual interviews. And like I said, I'd love to see some of the special effects stuff come to life on screen if you guys are down with that. And yeah, thank you all so much. Bye.